Reeves Immigration Law Group now brings you Immigration Law on Your Side.
All right, magandang gabi mga kababayan. Welcome to another Immigration Law on Your Side right here at PHLV Radio. Mga kaibigan, we're going to dive right into the topic today because immigration, as you know, has been a very, very hot topic over the past few months. It's been since the election season and continuing on the first 100 days of the new administration. Today, pag-uusapan po natin in this edition, Green Card and Visa Watch, navigating deportation trends and travel risks. It's been all over the news. Of course, President Trump has made immigration enforcement a central pillar of his administration. We've heard of several high-profile arrests recently and deportations as well in recent weeks, and that have sparked fear among visa and green card holders that they could be targeted by the Trump administration, who pledged that arrests and deportations they were the first of many more to come. So today on Immigration Law on Your Side, kasama po natin si Attorney Flomi Javier Diza on our Green Card and Visa Watch, navigating deportation trends and travel risks from Reeves Immigration Law Group. Magandang gabi po sa iyo, Attorney Diza.
Magandang gabi, Kuya Johan. It's great that I'm here again at babatiin na rin natin ng magandang gabi lahat ng viewers and listeners ng PHLV Radio. Very timely ang ating pag-usapan dahil as you mentioned a while ago, marami sa atin ang nakinig at napanood sa news na may mga high-profile arrest and detention and even deportation kahit mga green card holders, Kuya Johan, at visa holders. At marami sa ating mga kababayan, they thought na kapag sila ay nasa valid visa holder or green card holder, they are immune from deportation. Pero not at this time, not during this Trump administration where, as you mentioned kanina, the detention and arrest ng isang green card holder is many of the first to come, di ba? So abangan natin yan. Marami rin sa ating mga kababayan at nababahala na before they travel and before they book their flight, they consult with us to find out if they are okay to travel. So very important and very timely ang ating pag-uusapan ngayon dahil kahit mga green card holder ay natatakot or nababahala kung sila ba ay safe din at hindi lang yung mga nag-overstay o yung mga illegal, yung entered without inspection ang tinatarget ng gobyerno.
Attorney, we've been doing this for many years already, and for our listeners and for us monitoring the immigration situation, for most of us, when you already get the green card or you already have a visa, valid status, or successful in your filings, para bang okay na tayo. Parang okay, safe, no? But over the past few weeks, that has been questioned. Has there been any change at all in the enforcement as far as those who are already in green cards or permanent residents or those who have valid visas, Attorney?
That's a valid point, Kuya Johan, dahil as you mentioned kanina, once you're a green card holder, you should be okay to stay and work and live in the U.S., but that's not the situation now. But if your question is, may mga pagbabago ba sa batas? But, there has been a law that also allow the Immigration Custom Enforcement ng ICE to arrest people who have a serious criminal conviction or have a prior immigration history kagaya ng fraud or misrepresentation. Kaya lang ngayon, Kuya Johan, ay medyo mas enhanced ang enforcement. So they're still using the same law, but of course pag-usapan natin ngayon kung ano yung mga bagong executive orders o idadagdag doon sa authority ng federal government to implement ang immigration. But of course sa mga green card holder or visa holders na may mga criminal records or mga prior immigration history, medyo may problema, especially so, Kuya Johan, if they plan to travel outside the U.S.
That's right. So attorneys, can you explain to us, a lot of us can't really understand why some of our kababayans or those who've already been given green cards or valid visa status, why should they worry about deportation? What Ano ang mga parameters, attorney, para malaman nila na, nako, mukhang delikado kahit na meron na akong green card?
Yung mga nakakuha ng green card without a problem, Kuya Johan, like let's say it's a very clean, right, or slam dunk case where there are no issues surrounding their applications, right? Walang problema sa kanilang aplikasyon at nakuha nila ang kanilang green card up to this time. Let's say they've been a green card holder for a year or 10 years at wala silang history during that time after getting the green card. They should be fine to stay here in the US and to travel. Wala dapat silang ikabahala at wala silang dapat ikatakot. Ang problema, Kuya Johan, was, let's say you're a green card holder now, right? And there was do you have an immigration history which you failed to disclose, right, during your green card process, right? A good example is ito yung accusation ng, and I don't know if this is true, but a very good example, yung accusation ng government ngayon doon sa Colombian student na they arrested him. Apparently, at the beginning, ang lawyers ng student, immigration lawyers ng student thought that because of his active participation, di ba, doon sa tawag nito, sa rally, yun ang dahilan kung bakit siya inaresto. But apparently, it looks like they were saying na meron siyang nakalimutan i-disclose or intentionally disclose dun sa kanyang application that he was part of a membership or organization that's considered as a terrorist group, right? So kung yung ating argument, Kuya Johan, na kung meron kayong itinago, right, na material information when you applied for a green card, so medyo delikado kayo, to be honest, if the government will look into your file, right? So, or yung mga kababayan din natin in the 1990s or 2000 where they were petitioned by their parents as single but they were in fact married, diba? So, and then they decided to petition their family at na-discover ng USCIS or embassy na ay kasal ka pala dati, hindi po dapat ako ang green card mo. And that's also a good example that you have had an immigration history. So yun yung mga problematic, right? So if and when immigration really scrutinize your file, there's a possibility that either they will you'll be placed in removal proceedings. Now, let's say wala naman kayong problema dun sa pag-file ng application ninyo. Sabi natin kanina, malinis at walang issue, walang fraud, walang crime, wala kayong tinago, lahat dineclare nyo at nakuha nyo yung green card nyo. But between obtaining the green card up to the present, kung meron kayong ginawang kasalanan or you committed a serious crime, yon, Kuya Johan, pwede ka pang ma-deport. So hindi ibig sabihin green card holder ka na, immune ka na. You still have to either to be clean to file for citizenship and be able to stay here. Kasi otherwise, if you commit a deportable crime, like kagaya ng serious aggravated felony, domestic violence, even a DUI that causes death or injuries, could lead you to deportation. So yun yung dapat alamin na ating kababayan, that having a green card holder is not a right but is a privilege where the government can always take that away from you if you commit certain crimes or immigration violations.
Right, like what you said, attorney, over the past few episodes na pinag-uusapan natin, that when you're on green card, para kang tinetesting yung inyong if you're a good citizen, so if you commit those deportable offenses, then you could be worried about deportation. Attorney, over the past few months especially, has there been any changes in terms of implementing all these deportations? Pagka kunwari, ganun nga, may misrepresentation na nakita sa iyong papel when you applied for the green card. Walk us through the process of this one. Hawak mo na yung green card, and then do they go back and look at all of your records all of a sudden, yung lahat ng mga final mo, and if so, could you ask legal representation? Pwede bang tumawag sa inyo, attorney, itong mga green card holders na ito, na hey, they're trying to look at my records. Can they do that, attorney?
Well, definitely, Kuya Johan. There's something that would trigger for the immigration to look at your file, diba? Or it's not something that, there are millions and millions of immigrants in the United States. So it's kind of like difficult for the immigration to look every single lawful permanent resident's history or records. So it's not something na okay, tignan natin si A and then tignan natin si B. So it's not something that they're doing that. The law is still there, right? As we mentioned kanina, where if you commit something, then you can still be deportable. But the problem is, I just want to quote that the laws haven't changed, but the way they're being enforced has. So ibig sabihin, mas malaki ang scrutiny. So how does this play in with the present environment and present administration? Unang-una, right, if you travel, which is pag-usapan natin mamaya kung ano yung mga reasons bakit kayo pwedeng ilagay sa deportation or magkaroon ng issue pagbalik, di ba? So if you travel, doon nagtitrigger, right? Nakikita nila yung history mo. If you travel outside of the US, let's say umuwi kayo ng Pilipinas and then bumalik kayo, doon nila nakikita yung records, right? That's number one. Number two is when you apply for a benefit, meaning that for naturalization, right? So pag nag-naturalize ka, the immigration officer has all your records in front of them, right, when you go to the interview. So from that time you apply for a non-immigrant visa, for example, a tourist visa, H-1B, or anumang klase ng non-immigrant, and then you come here to the US and apply for change of status, alam mo, naging student mo na kayo, nandun sa records nila yon. And then you apply for adjustment or green card, or removal of condition or asylum, or you were placed in removal deportation or removal case, na ang immigration officer during your naturalization interview, nandun lahat ang kanilang records. So that will also trigger yung history ninyo at doon nila makikita, ang inyong case. Now, pangatlo, Kuya Johan, a possible scenario would also be when you apply for a petition for a family member, diba? So as we mentioned kanina, your petition as single to come to the US, but you have a marriage and have children that you fail to disclose during your embassy interview, then that would cause also scrutiny. So, and they can always, meaning the immigration can place you in removal or deportation proceedings. So yun yung mga sitwasyon, kababayan, na alalahanin natin that even if you're a green card holder, you're not immune from removal or deportation.
What are things, actually, attorney, that aside from those deportable offenses, yung mga may hawak na ng green card, what other scenarios na automatically might revoke your green card? I know pinag-usapan na natin ito before, like failure to pay your taxes, something like that. I remember in our past episodes. So let's just go back to that, attorney. What are some of, or the highlights, no, attorney, kung paano marirevoke ang iyong green card?
Well, the good thing about being a green card holder is that you have given the due process, right? Unlike for people who have here for less than 2 years, we mentioned in the past, where you could be subjected to expedited removal.
Yeah.
For a green card holder, you'll be given the right to due process. So let's say may mga different reasons why your green can be revoked. And very important dito yung abandonment of residency. At marami tayong nakikita ngayong scenario dyan where a lot of mga kababayan natin, they want a green card but they want to stay home in the Philippines as well to either finish their business, their politics, if they're running for politics, for elections, etc., or they want to finish their studies. They have children studying in the Philippines, so nagtatagal sila sa Pilipinas. So in the past, pwede yung dito ka ng 2 weeks and then uwi ka ng Pilipinas, nag-stay sila ng either 6 months o bago mag 1 year, balik ulit dito, and for the past 5 years, mas marami ang kanilang stay sa Pilipinas kaysa dito sa US. There are many situations where the CBP at the border would kind of let you or force you to sign an abandonment, meaning that you're not a resident of the US, you better sign this one and go home, and go back to the Philippines, and you can apply for a tourist visa anyway. So yun yung pwedeng dahilan, Kuya Johan, where they can revoke your green card. Now, we always advise our kababayan that if they don't like or they don't want to revoke their green card, they have to argue before the CBP officer that they're coming back to the US already to resume their residency, right? So sabihin nila na, meron na akong apartment, meron na akong trabaho naghihintay sa akin, my wife's still waiting for me, my wife's still in the US and waiting for me to be reunited, meron lang tawag tinapos doon. And if the officer insists na, hey, abandon natin to, or you'll be in detention while you're fighting your case for this number of days or months, then you can argue that I want to fight my case if you really want your green card. So that's number one, abandonment of residency. Now, kung ayaw nyo talaga, pwede naman kayo pumirma and go home. The problem is, do you have other options to come back as a green card? Kung wala kayong asawa, kung wala kayong anak na over 21 to repetition nyo, mahirapan kayo makabalik unless ayaw nyo talaga dito. Right? Then number two, kuya yung criminal convictions sa banggit natin kanina, yung mga drug offenses or domestic violence that were committed after the green card, or even before the green card, if you fail to disclose that na meron pala kayong conviction sa liblib na lugar sa Mindanao na hindi nyo na dineclare nung nandito kayo sa US, ngayon nalaman nila na meron pala kayong conviction doon, and that could also cause you to be placed in removal proceedings. Immigration fraud is very common, as we mentioned kanina, typical Filipino problems in the 90s where they waited for their petitions from their parents, at siyempre nagkaroon ng anak, nag-asawa, etc. It's not only an immigration fraud about marital status, but also other cases of immigration fraud where they were married to get a green card, or typical cases of asylum fraud, where they were being assisted by a notario and didn't read all the information provided before they sign or after they sign. So yung mga kind of fraudulent applications with USCIS, pwede rin kayo i-deport once they have unearthed those misrepresentations. Now, the other common problems then for revocation is the failure to remove conditional status, where you are married to a citizen, and when once USCIS approve your green card, binigyan lang kayo ng 2 years dahil your marriage is less than 2 years from the time when they gave you the green card. So they automatically terminate your green card status if you fail to file your removal of condition, or if you did file and USCIS deny your case, then they can place you in removal proceedings. Now, in all this scenario, Kuya Johan, generally, ang green card holder are given the right to due process, meaning na bibigyan kayo ng opportunity to be heard before the immigration judge, di ba, para ilaban yung kaso nyo and possible to file a relief para mapatawad kayo ng immigration court or immigration judge.
Attorney, maraming salamat for all these information. For those who've just jumped in and are joining us on the podcast right now or on our streaming, this is Immigration Law on Your Side, presented to all of us by Reeves Immigration Law Group. Our resource speaker right now is Attorney Flomi Javier-Diza, a partner at Reeves Immigration Law Group based out there in San Francisco, California. Maraming salamat for joining us. We are talking about trends, mga kababayan. Alam mo, sa social media, merong mga social media trending items. Ito, trending din ito, mga deportation trends. And, those who are traveling as well, may mga risk din, especially those who are on green cards and those who are on non-immigrant visas as well. So maraming salamat for joining us. Attorney, isa sa mga trending items over the past few months, I would suppose, is itong napapag-usapan na Alien Enemies Act. Laman ng balita ito. This has been always in the news and tied, of course, towards deportation. Attorney, can you give us a briefing about what the Alien Enemies Act is all about?
Yes, Kuya Johan, as we are discussing a while ago, I mean, usually a green card holder will be given a due process, right? A day in court. Ibig sabihin, they have the right to hire a lawyer and file a relief before the immigration judge. Now, there are certain exceptions dun sa napag-usapan natin in the past, kagaya ng expedited removal, na wala kang right to a hearing. Pero those expedited removal apply for people who came here illegally, yung mga illegal aliens or yung mga overstay ng less than 2 years, right? Pero itong Alien Enemies Act, this is also very important to inform our kababayan that even if you're a green card holder, this is one of the exceptions where you are not given the right to a hearing before the judge, right? So let's say, as we mentioned kanina, the Immigration Custom Enforcement can arrest you and deport you right away without the benefit of a hearing, whether you're a green card holder or non-immigrant who have stayed in the U.S. for over 2 years. Now, a good example of this would be yung Venezuelan gang, right? They were saying that there's authority by the president to, what do you call this, to arrest who are considered enemies of the state. Now, to just give you a brief background of this case, this is a very old provision or very old law that was enacted pa noong 1700, kuya yon, 1798. It's kind of like wartime authority,
right,
na that allows the president to detain or deport the native citizens of an enemy nation, right? So wala naman tayong gera ngayon. So that's why many immigration advocates, pinanguna ng ACLU, yung Civil Liberties Union, American Civil Liberties Union, who filed an action, federal case, to question the authority of the president using this Alien Enemies Act, diba? That will allow or permits the president to target immigrants without a hearing. As we mentioned, kung napapanood ninyo, that there were 2 or 3 planes that sent back these Venezuelans who allegedly were part of the gang members identified as enemies of the nation. So, fortunately, hopefully hindi naman to applicable sa mga Pilipino, right? Dahil wala tayong nababalitaan na membership of a gang or any type of terrorist activities that are against the national security of the United States.
Attorney, how about the visa holders naman? Pag-usapan natin kanina yung mga green card holders. How about yung mga kababayan natin or those who are on visas, non-immigrant visas especially, who are here in the United States? What could be some of the common grounds that they could be deported, especially, say, for example, they just came here to visit their families and friends, B1, B2 visa, and just having a good time in Disneyland or namamasyal dyan sa San Francisco. What should they be worried about, Attorney?
As long as ang mga kababayan natin would follow the type of visa they are here in the U.S., then they should be fine, right? Or not to commit any crimes, etc. Now, very common kasi sa mga turista sa atin is, they come here on a B1, B2, and remember that the purpose of your stay is to visit places and, for tourism and for business, right? But you're not supposed to be working on this type of visa. If, for example, you're here on that type of visa and you're working, and that constitutes a violation of status. So then that could be a basis for your removal in the U.S. if immigration finds out. Now, yung mga H-1B, right, mga 3 years ang validity nila, H-1B or TN visa, it's non-immigrant professional workers, employer-specific ang inyong visa. So, you are supposed to be working only with your petitioner. So if you work for another company that's not your petitioner, then that's also a violation of your status, and that could be a basis for removal. Now, yung mga student visa, very common to, Kuya Johan. Hindi po tayo kagaya ng Canada where you're allowed to work, right? In the US, you are supposed to be studying, focusing on your studies, unless you are on your OPT, right? That you are able to get the work authorization. That's the only time where you are allowed to work. Ano pa ba? So any type of visa, Kuya Johan, that is inconsistent, or you're a crewman, right? You're supposed to be joining the ship and working in a ship, but you're not. So those are also violations. And as we mentioned kanina, they can also revoke your visa and or place you in removal proceedings. And also a very what do you call this, big case that happened last week, Kuya Yon, yung doctor from I think Eastern Europe who were denied admission, right? Kasi meron siyang I think H-1B visa. She was detained and she was deported back. So yun na ang problema nung nag-travel, Kuya Johan, just because I don't think there was a violation of the visa, but again, this is a membership of a group that's considered as enemy of the United States or categorized as terrorist group by by the United States. So yun din nakikita rin sa mga kababayan natin kung kayo nagta-travel even with a valid visa, if you have had activities that can be easily identified by ICE through your social media, right? Or madali pwede po kayong i-denied admission kahit meron po kayong visa at pwede lang i-revoke yun at pwede kayong hindi papasukin pag-uwi nyo, pagbalik nyo sa US.
Attorney, for those who've been told to leave, those are in deportation proceedings and those who are being deported, what are the immediate actions that they should do? Ano ba yung checklist nila, attorney, na dapat tawagan ko muna to, tawagan dapat ba ang attorney right away? Walk us through some of the steps na dapat nilang gawin, attorney.
That's a good point, Kuya Johan, because as we mentioned kanina, I think number one that people should know is know your rights and know what to do. If confronted with the situation, that's why we are here to educate you, because knowledge is power. Pag alam nyo ang ginagawa nyo, alam nyo kung paano remedyohan ang problema. Now, if you are in the United States at nandito pa kayo and you think that there was a mistake, or even if immigration is correct in making arrest or detention or placing you in removal proceedings, it's really, really important to consult an immigration lawyer. Kasi hindi natin alam kung tama ang gobyerno, right? Or even if tama sila, if there's an available relief for you, why not fight the case in removal proceedings? Especially so if your business, your family is already in the US, di ba? Bakit isakripisyo natin yon? If there's a way for us, immigration lawyers, to find ways to legalize your status to remedy the situation. That's really, really important. Now, sa mga green card holders na nasa port of entry, we've been emphasizing that once you're seeking admission, if you travel and you're seeking admission into the US, wala kayong right to a lawyer, right? Kasi kumbaga legally, hindi ka pa nakakatuntong sa US soil kahit nasa airport ka na, pero hindi ka pa ina-admit into the US. So basically, you don't have a right to a lawyer. But as a green card holder, as I mentioned a while ago and repeated in the past, you can invoke your right to see an immigration judge because due process applies to you unless itong Alien Enemies Act ang basis ng pag-aresto sa inyo. Pero kung hindi naman, you're a green card holder, you can always invoke your right to see an immigration lawyer and to fight your case before the immigration court. So those are the important things that our kababayan should remember if they're confronted with this situation.
Mm-hmm. Maraming salamat, attorney. Those are great points para sa ating mga kababayan. And again, for those who are just jumping in on the podcast, we're talking about navigating deportation trends and travel risks. And when we're speaking of travel, this also involves even those who've been naturalized already. Mga American citizens na, mga U.S. citizens. Probably they crossed over to pumunta sila sa Niagara Falls, pumunta sila sa Toronto, pumunta sila sa Vancouver, just crossing the border up to Canada. Namasyal sila dyan sa Windsor from Detroit, for example. Alamin natin kay attorney in just a little bit kung meron bang dapat ikabahala ang ating mga kababayan who are already US citizens for a while. They have US passports coming back to the United States from a travel. Is there any risk? Itatanong po natin yan kay attorney Lisa. Diyan lamang po kayo. But we'll give an opportunity to attorney to wrap things up about those who are holding visas and green cards on what should they mind? Ano yung kailangan nilang pagtuunan ng pansin, especially now na mainit ang immigration? Attorney, nasa iyo po.
It is always a great idea sa mga kababayan natin when you apply for some type of benefit, meaning like you're filing for your family member, right, to come here to the US, or they are already here, filing an adjustment of status, filing for your removal of condition, if you intend to file an asylum, or even filing for naturalization. To speak to an immigration lawyer to assess your case, right? Even a simple thing like wala ako nakikitang problema sa case ko, right? You speak to the lawyer, sit down with the lawyer, and see what are small things or small issues that might become big when you go to an immigration interviews. So it's that important sa mga kababayan natin to seek legal advice and go over your immigration history to make sure that all the information you provided in your applications are correct, right? So that's a really great idea, especially at this time. Marami sa ating mga kababayan are facing uncertainties, Kuya Johan. Even people who have no criminal records or no immigration history, it is always a good idea to remind them how they first came to the U.S. and how they obtained the green card.
That's right. Attorney, the past few days, may mga dumulog dito sa radio station asking about something related to what we're talking about. Nagta-travel sila and everything, especially when they are here in the US. Should they be carrying all the time their documents ngayon? No? I mean, like, for the past few months, years siguro na nandito sila. Medyo naging relaxed na sila. Pero ngayon nga, attorney, medyo mainit ang immigration. Should people, especially those in green cards and those in visas, should they be carrying their documents all the time while they are here in the United States?
It's recommended to carry your identification documents or your green cards, or your work authorization to show that you are legal and you are authorized to stay and work in the United States. That's really important because there are situations, Kuya Johan, where you are at the wrong place at the wrong time.
Right.
They were looking for something and nandun kayo, nasa public places, kagaya ng grocery stores, churches, hospitals, or even public transportation, or at your work, where immigration is targeting a very specific person, and nandun kayo, di ba? So, collateral damage. So, it's really important to show to the eyes that you are legal status. For a U.S. citizen, as long as you tell them that you're a citizen, we don't encourage people to bring their passport, baka mawala. But if you want peace of mind, why not, right? Especially if you're not white, it might be a good idea to carry it with you if you want peace of mind. But personally, for me, as long as probably if I tell people, like, if in that situation that I'm a citizen, that should be good enough, because the reality is you're a citizen anyway, as long as they are not targeting you because of your color, di ba? So specific. Pero kung nasa grupo kasi o nasa collateral damage na sinasabi natin, it's a good idea to let them know or show them your proof of citizenship or status in the U.S.
Attorney, you know what? While we're doing this program right now, may mga inaabot sa akin dito ng mga questions, and a lot of them actually, but only one caught my attention. I'll probably throw it out to you before we dive into the question about American citizens traveling. Recently, attorney, we've been hearing news about Canada, and maraming mga usapin tungkol sa Canada. Mga kaibigan natin, mga Filipinos who are here, they have this electronic, the ETA. They can go and they have U.S. visas. They wanted to go to Canada. Is it a good time to go to Canada, even for U.S. citizens? What do you think, attorney?
Well, I think the Canadians are not coming to the U.S. for sure. Dahil we have heard a lot of stories on the news that they are canceling the vacations in the U.S., etc. And there are many news that milling around where Canadians, in protest of President Trump's plan to annex Canada as the 51st state, right, and of course the tariff issues, etc. Many of them are not coming to the US, to the US. Pero mga kababayan nating Filipino, I don't see uptick of not coming to the US. US is still a great place to work and to live. As a US citizen, I have planned to travel with my family to Canada this year as well. It's been booked, and we have no plan of canceling it, right? To be honest, I don't think my brother-in-law just came here also last week for the spring break of their children, and they came here. What they told us was the CBP coming to the yung sa border, Kuya Johan, it's stricter now, mas mahaba ang pila, although hindi na mahaba ang pila, mas matagal lang ang waiting time because CBPs are trying to go over their belongings to make sure that probably they're not bringing in mga products that are not that are either subject to tariff or akala nila hindi nagbayad ng taxes, etc. So they were asked to open their trunk and show what they brought. Yun yung nakikita nila, although hindi gaano mahaba ang pila sa pagpasok sa US. I don't see any potential issues with Canadian immigration. I still think that as long as you don't violate the Canadian immigration laws, we are free to travel. And coming back, I don't see any problem as well because if you're carrying a green card or a US passport, you should be okay as long as you don't have those mentioned kanina na fraud or misrepresentation and criminal convictions.
That's right. Oo nga, sabi nga dito ng katabi ko dito, wag lang magdala ng napakaraming maple syrup.
Baka subject to tariff yan, Kuya Johan. Magkano na ba ang tariff ngayon na ano? So, yeah, just be mindful of what you bring either to Canada or to the US.
That's right. So anyway, tawid tayo, attorney, dun sa last question natin. How about the US citizens? Those who are already US citizens, whether they're born here in the United States as US citizens or those who've been naturalized, what are the travel risks as of this time, attorney, when you're going to Europe maybe, or like what we were talking about, Canada or Mexico or any other international destination? What are the things that we should be looking at, attorney, at this point?
U.S. citizens also face some scrutiny, Kuya Johan, when returning from travel abroad, coming back to the U.S. It's the job of the CBP officer at the airport, right, to check if people coming here have the correct documentation, right, and if they suspect that you are carrying contraband, etc., you're carrying X amount of money that's over the limit, that's their job, right? And also they can look at your cell phones, etc., if they suspect that you committed a crime, like probably a child pornography or something on your phones or your cell phones, etc. And that's the job of the CBP and immigration, and that's fine. Now, unless an American is accused of fraudulently obtaining the citizenship, right, you should not be prevented from re-entering the U.S. And again, kahit U.S. citizen na po tayo, ang problema kasi, Kuya Johan, there are also people who obtain their green card fraudulently and become a citizen fraudulently. Kumbaga, they continue perpetrating fraud up to when they became a citizen, and then they applied for something for the family back home, and then the embassy or the USCIS unearthed or discovered those fraud, and also there's also a record in the system, and there's a probability, Kuya Johan, na papapasukin pa rin sila because they're still U.S. citizen. The U.S. citizen has more rights, to be honest, than the green card holder. So kung papapasukin ang green card holder, with more reason na papasukin ang U.S. citizen. There's no question about that. But they might place them in what we call denaturalization proceedings, which is a good topic for our next discussion or future discussions natin, when a person can be denaturalized. I think that's a great idea. We have not discussed this topic yet in detail, Kuya Johan, but this is a good topic to discuss. When can one be denaturalized? Paano nila tatanggalin ang citizenship ng isang tao? That happened during Trump 1.0, and there's a discussion with regard to denaturalization on this current administration.
That's right. Anyway, maraming salamat, attorney, for all this wealth of information that, again, binibigay natin sa ating mga kababayan right here at Immigration Law on Your Side. Attorney, before I let you go, final thoughts about our topic today.
Yes, bago yan, Kuya Johan, I would like to invite mga kababayan natin dito sa Bay Area. We have an event on March 28, this Friday, at the Correct Library in San Francisco, where Attorney General Rob Bonta, the first Filipino-Americans who became the Attorney General in California, or probably in the U.S., the first Attorney General, would be our guest speaker. We are honoring Filipino-Americans who won the recent elections in the United States, Kuya Johan, and there are many of them. So I will be expecting hundreds of attendees. I will be probably posting a link to the invitation if you are still interested to come and join the event. Hope in Motion, celebrating the victories of Filipino Americans in the recent elections. It's a free event, mga kababayan. So anyway, sa mga green card holders and visa holders, most of you are uneasy and facing uncertainty, right? When traveling and applying for naturalization, we've been receiving calls and emails regarding your status. As we mentioned kanina, it's a great idea to speak to us and see your issues and discuss to you whether it is wise to move forward with your plan to either file for naturalization or filing for your family member, and guide you the proper way of doing it. Maraming salamat ulit Kuya Johan, and of course, inanyayahan natin lahat ng viewers and listeners ng PHLV Radio to listen, watch, and share all the programs of PHLV Radio. Maraming salamat.
Maraming salamat, Attorney Flomi Javier Diza, coming out to you from San Francisco, California via Zoom. We've been doing this for many years already. Kung meron po kayong mga katanungan, padala lamang sa info@phlvradio.com. And even if we've been doing this for many years, like ng sinabi ni Attorney kanina, meron pa rin mga bagong pwedeng mapag-usapan like yung denaturalization and iba pang mga topics in immigration. Such important topics, mga kaibigan, that we bring to you presented by our good friends from Reeves Immigration Law Group. Attorney Diza, maraming salamat po, and regards po sa inyo dyan sa San Francisco.
My pleasure. Thank you, Johan.
Maraming salamat, Attorney. And mga kaibigan, this has been your Kuya Yo on PHLV Radio in Las Vegas para sa Immigration Law on Your Side. We will see you again next time.
Reeves Immigration Law Group has just brought you Immigration Law on Your Side. Wednesdays, 7 p.m. Pacific on PHLV